You know there is a peculiar feeling that seems to haunt the modern soul. It is a feeling that creeps in late at night, or perhaps on a Sunday afternoon, when the noise of the world momentarily subsides. It is even there, paradoxically, when you are standing in the middle of a crowded room, holding a drink, surrounded by laughter and conversation. It is the feeling of being fundamentally apart, of being behind a pane of glass. You see the world, you see the people playing their games, but you do not feel of them. You feel like a stranger in a strange land. The world has a name for this. They call it loneliness. They call it alienation. They call it depression or social anxiety. They tell you it is a malfunction, a chemical imbalance, a lack of social skills, a failure to adapt. They tell you to go out more, to network, to join the club, to drown out the silence with more noise. But let me propose something to you, something that might sound contradictory to everything you have been told. What if this feeling isn't a sickness? What if it is not a defect? What if this intense sense of solitude is actually a sign of spiritual health? What if you are not falling apart, but rather you are beginning to see clearly for the first time? You see, we live in a society that is terrified of the void. We have constructed an entire civilization designed to distract us from ourselves. We have the television, the internet, the constant ping of notifications, the endless stream of news, the rush of the commute, the noise of the marketplace. We keep the music loud and the lights bright because we are terrified of what we might hear if the noise stopped. But you have stopped hearing the music of the crowd. You have stepped out of the dance. And now you are standing at the edge of the room, feeling the weight of your own existence. This is not a crisis. This is an invitation. It is an invitation to discover who you are when you are not performing for an audience. It is the universe clearing a space around you not to punish you, but to protect you, to allow something new to grow. Consider the mountain peak. It is lonely up there. The air is thin, the wind is cold, there are no crowds. But it is only from that solitude that one can see the whole horizon. The weeds and the vines grow in tangled, suffocating clumps down in the humid valley. But the great oak, the majestic pine, they need space. They need solitude to spread their roots deep into the earth and their branches high into the heavens. If you feel alone right now, it is because you are growing. You are expanding, and expansion requires space. Now let's go deeper. Why does this loneliness hurt? Why do we feel this ache in our chest when we are not connected to others? It comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of what a human being is. In the West, particularly in the culture we have built, we are hallucinating. We are under the impression that we come into this world. You feel like you are a separate entity, a skin-encapsulated ego, a little soul trapped inside a bag of skin walking around in a universe that is alien to you. You feel like a tourist in the cosmos. You think, here I am and there is the rest of the world, and I must fight it, I must manipulate it, I must make it like me. And because you feel separate, you feel vulnerable. You feel small. You feel like a tiny island in a vast and different ocean. And so you frantically try to build bridges to other islands. You try to shout across the water, I am here. Validate me. Love me. Tell me I exist. This is the root of our neurotic need for constant connection. We are trying to prove to ourselves that we are real. But this is the great illusion. You did not come into this world. You came out of it. You are a symptom of the universe. In the same way that a wave is a symptom of the ocean. In the same way that a flower is a symptom of the apple tree. Think about the wave for a moment. Does the wave feel lonely? Does the wave look at the other waves and say, "Oh no, I am separate from them. I am all alone"? No. Because the wave is the ocean. The wave is simply the ocean waving at itself. You are the universe patterning itself as a human being for a little while. When you realize this, not just intellectually, but when you feel it in your bones, the quality of your loneliness changes completely. It shifts from loneliness, which is the pain of being isolated, to solitude, which is the glory of being unique. You see, you cannot be truly alone because there is nothing outside of you. The environment, the air, the trees, the other people, they are all extensions of the same energy that is beating your heart. The silence you feel is not an empty box. It is the womb of creation. It is the pregnant pause before the music begins. Most people are so busy making noise that they never hear the hum of the universe. But you, in your isolation, you have become quiet enough to hear it. You have become sensitive. And yes, sensitivity can be painful. But it is the pain of waking up from a numbing dream. Let's talk about why you don't fit in. This is a big source of anxiety for many of you. You look at your peers, your colleagues, the people on social media, and they seem so well-adjusted. They seem to know exactly what to say. They play the game so well, and you feel like an actor who has lost their script. You are fumbling your lines. You feel awkward. Let me tell you a secret. They are all pretending. Everyone is pretending. The word person comes from the Latin word persona, which literally means mask. It was the mask worn by actors in the Greco-Roman theater to project their voice. So a person is a mask. It is a role. It is a character. We are all taught to play a character. The good employee. The loving partner. The successful entrepreneur. The cool friend. We polish these masks. We paint them. We hold them up tight against our faces until we forget that there is a face underneath. But here is your problem and your gift. Your mask is slipping. You are bad at pretending. You look at the cocktail party, the networking event, the corporate meeting, and you see it for what it is, a play, a drama. And for some reason, you can no longer take the drama seriously. You see the strings. You see the stage lights. You see the absurdity of it all. This makes it very hard to fit in. Because to fit in, you must agree that the game is real. You must agree that the blue ribbons and the gold stars and the numbers in the bank account are matters of life and death. But you know they aren't. You have glimpsed the backstage. So when you try to engage in small talk, it feels excruciating. Because you are trying to force your vast, infinite consciousness into a tiny, trivial box. You are trying to discuss the weather when your soul wants to discuss the nature of reality. You are a whale trying to swim in a swimming pool. Of course you feel clumsy. Of course you feel like you don't belong. You don't belong in the pool. You belong in the deep. Do not chastise yourself for this. Do not try to shrink yourself to fit the mask. The reason you feel lonely is that your frequency is rare. If you are a radio broadcasting on a frequency of truth and everyone else is tuned to the frequency of noise, you will not pick up a signal. This is not a defect in the radio. It is a distinction of the broadcast. In ancient tribes, the person who felt this way, the one who couldn't quite fit into the village routine, the one who heard voices in the wind, the one who needed to spend days alone in the forest, They weren't medicated. They weren't shamed. They became the shaman. They became the healer. They became the visionary. The tribe understood that this person was the bridge between the known and the unknown. You are the modern shaman, but you have forgotten your role. You are trying to be a villager when you were born to be a mystic. So, what do we do with this solitude? The modern instinct is to fix it, to fill it. We treat silence like a hole in the road that needs to be paved over. When we are alone, we panic. We pick up the phone. We scroll. We listen to podcasts. We eat. We work. We do anything to avoid the sensation of simply being. We are addicted to doing. We are obsessed with productivity. But look at nature. Does the cloud do anything? It floats. Does the grass try to grow? No, it just grows. This is the principle of Wu Wei, or effortless action. Your loneliness feels heavy because you are resisting it. You are fighting the current. Imagine you are in a river. If you try to swim upstream against the flow, you will become exhausted, anxious, and you will drown. But if you turn over, float on your back, and let the river carry you, suddenly the water is not your enemy. It is your support. The invitation of this video, the invitation of your life right now, is to stop swimming upstream, to stop trying to solve your loneliness. Instead, turn toward it. Make friends with it. Enter the void. This is what I call the fertile void. In architecture, the most important part of a room is not the walls, but the empty space between them. That is where you live. In music, the most important part is not the notes, but the silence between the notes. Without the silence, it would just be a continuous screaming noise. Your life needs silence to have rhythm. When you stop running from yourself, when you finally sit down in that empty room and say, "Okay, here I am, just me, just this breath, just this moment," something miraculous happens. The mud settles, the water clears, and you begin to feel a presence. You realize that you are never actually talking to others. You are only ever talking to yourself through others. And when the others are gone, the conversation becomes direct. You begin to access your own intuition. You begin to download your own wisdom. Creative ideas start to bubble up. Not forced ideas, but genuine inspirations. This is why the greatest artists, the greatest thinkers, the greatest saints all spent time in the wilderness. They needed the empty vessel so that the universe could pour into it. You are currently being hollowed out, and that process can hurt. It feels like you are being scraped clean. But as the poet Rumi said, the wound is the place where the light enters you. Your loneliness is that wound, and if you stop picking at it, if you stop trying to bandage it with cheap distractions, it will become the portal to your enlightenment. And here is where we arrive at the beautiful paradox. By fully accepting your aloneness, you bridge the gap of separation. When you go deep enough into your own center, you hit the center of everything. You realize that the self you were trying to protect, the self that felt lonely, was just a story. And beneath that story is the witness, the observer, the consciousness that watches the loneliness, watches the joy, watches the world go by. That consciousness is shared. It is the same consciousness looking out of my eyes and your eyes and the eyes of a cat and the eyes of an owl. We are like different windows in the same house. The view is slightly different from each window, but the light shining through them is the same light. Once you know this, you can go back into the world. But you go back differently. You go back not as a beggar seeking scraps of attention, but as a king or queen sharing your wealth. You no longer need people to complete you. You are already complete. And ironically, this is when people will be drawn to you. There is nothing more attractive, nothing more magnetic than a person who is comfortable in their own solitude. A person who does not need anything from you is a person you want to be around. Because they are free, and their freedom is contagious. So, my friend, do not be afraid of this season of isolation. Do not think you have been left behind. You are simply being prepared. You are being tuned. You are being refined. The world is noisy, chaotic, and often shallow. But you are the deep anchor. You are the mountain standing still amidst the storm. Stand tall in your solitude. Breathe into it. Cherish it. Because in the end, you are not alone. You are all one. You are the universe experiencing the exquisite pleasure of its own company. And that is not a tragedy. That is a miracle.